After 2.5 or 3 days soaking, we are finally getting an opportunity to dry out. Well over 3 inches of rain at PDX, and some of the most impressive rainfall totals from this atmospheric river up in the Cascades and in the Coast Range. The south side of Mount St. Helens, 13.3 inches of rain. That was as of 11 p.m. Last night. We've tacked on a little bit more since then, but rainfall amounts in the valley and in the Cascades and across all of Northwest Oregon and most of Southwest Washington have really dropped off. Speaking of the Cascades, by the way, this continues to be a story as we look live at Timberline Lodge at 6,000 feet on Mount Hood. It is December 10th, and typically there would be 3 feet of snow on the ground here now at this point. It's 42 degrees and there is nothing up there right now, and I don't see that changing over the next 5 to 7 days. Models do keep indicating in the extended period, getting out 7 to 10 days, that cooler weather will come in, but they keep saying that, and then it keeps not happening as that time frame gets closer. So again, that continues to be a story. The more short-term story, of course, is the heavy rain that we've had the last couple of days. The focus of that now has shifted well to the north, up into the Seattle area. You can still see that moisture plume, and it's impressive, but the good news for us here locally is that will stay to the north over the next 2 days. That said, Kelso up in Cowlitz County, the Cowlitz River is one of the area rivers that is running high, and it does drain the South Washington Cascades, right? So additional rainfall up there will keep that river running high. The flood warning actually remains through, for minor flooding, remains in effect for the Cowlitz River in Kelso through Saturday. Elsewhere, though, you can see the amounts really taper off the farther south you go. In fact, modeling not showing any precipitation other than maybe a trace down towards Salem, Corvallis, and Albany through the day today. The live look from our Vancouver sky camera here from the Springs to the waterfront. The clouds are really zipping from the south to the north here. The south breeze at Pearson Field is at 10 miles an hour. At PDX, well, this is looking live down on downtown Portland. You can see the flag there atop the Umpqua Bank building snapping in the breeze. So it's a stout south wind this morning at 21 miles an hour. We've had some gusts to 30 earlier today, and Futurecast likes the idea of those 25 to 30 mile an hour wind gusts maintaining strength here throughout the day. So this is not overly impactful, but when you consider the fact that we've had so much rain, down trees could still potentially be an issue in 1 or 2 places. And with that, of course, comes the down power lines, any kind of road closures or anything like that. So we're still kind of dealing with the impacts of that heavy rain, even though the rain has shut off. But Futurecast again does show a little smattering of green on the map, indicating some light potential rain showers today and tomorrow. Temperature-wise, very warm. We've got Portland topping out at 58 to 60 later today. In fact, I've got us at 61. The record for today is 65. So for perspective, the average high this time of year is 47. So not quite a record, but still really warm. And of course, another part of the story as to why there's no snow at the Cascade ski resorts. And I don't see that changing, not in the next 5 to 7 days. What we do see, though, is the rain tapering off, so that's good. A few showers still today, maybe a few more tomorrow, and then a couple of dry days in our 7-day forecast on Friday and Saturday.
When we're talking about atmospheric rivers, these are very common along the West Coast. However, the majority of them are beneficial for us, and typically this is what brings us all the much needed rain, especially to California when we have some of those really bad droughts, and it typically ends the fire season for a large portion of the area. We also depend on that here in the Pacific Northwest. It's just when we start to get into that strong category, the AR3, which AR means atmospheric river, and it goes from 1 to 5, the scale. It's more of a scientific term. We didn't just make this term up. It is an atmospheric river. That is the scientific term of it. You may know it as the Pineapple Express because we have all of that warm, moist air stretching all the way, usually down from Hawaii, the subtropics, the tropics as well. But in this case, we have a pretty strong atmospheric river. It was ranked an AR4, which is mostly hazardous. Here's a look at some of where we stand. I mentioned nearly or over 24 flood warnings for our rivers. Different portions of of the same river also included, but 26 of our rivers. 12 about, it keeps changing, but between about 10 and 13 are expected to reach major flood stage, possibly 3 reaching historic. We already had one reach a historic level. And here's some of the river forecast levels. So that purple color you see there, those are our major, or our rivers and portions of the rivers that are expected to reach major flood stage. So you see, this was as of 7 a.m. Wednesday, but I plotted them there just so you can see it's the majority of the rivers flowing off of the Cascades. Here's a look at those flood warnings. Again, 26 of our rivers included within those flood warnings. Here's a look at our river level forecast. This is as of 10 a.m. Wednesday, some of the gauges picking up on the numbers. And so the Puyallup near Ording, that one, it looks like it is crested. It was supposed to crest at 10 a.m. and so now it is above that, but the record was 21.5. The Snohomish at Snohomish, so some of our most concerning rivers are coming from Skagit and then Snohomish County, and you see the Snohomish at Snohomish is expected to crest on the 11th, which is on Thursday night, at 33.5 feet, which is the previous record. The Snohomish near Monroe initially, you see how it's forecast to crest in that major flood stage. Right now it's about 13.46. So it is climbing. The Cedar at Renton also expected to maybe come close to record flood stage, which was back in 1990, but the Skagit near Mount Vernon, that is going to be the big one because not just a foot above the previous record, we're talking several feet, and that's expected to crest Friday morning. Here's some of our other rivers. This is now as of 10 a.m., so keep in mind if you're watching this later, these numbers, the current gauges are going to go up because our rivers are expected to climb over the next 24 hours. The Skykomish near Gold Bar, that one is expected to crest tonight around 10 o'clock, and so it is climbing already in major flood stage. Additionally, the Cowlitz at Randall, it is expected to crest tomorrow morning, but you see it's already in major flood stage, and so we may see some changes to that forecast. And so the red that you see, those are moderate flood stage. Major is the pink, so we have numerous ones. This is a product from the National Water Prediction Service. It's an experimental product, so they're just experimenting with it right now, but it still tells us the story. The blue that you see means considerable of flooding hazards, and so what they're saying is major and or record flooding is expected, especially along the Skagit and Snohomish rivers, and again, those coming off of the Cascades. Additionally, small stream and moderate to major river flooding is expected, again, especially for those rivers coming off of the Cascades. And there is an increased risk for debris flows and landslides just because our soils are so saturated and all of that rain, well, it's got to go somewhere. And at this point, our vegetation, our soils just can't handle it. And so that is going to increase our risk for landslides, especially for those steep hillsides, the burn scars, steep coastal areas, and we have lots of hills here in the greater Seattle area. So this is what we're expecting today and into tomorrow. We've extended our first alert weather days into Thursday because we're still going to have some rain, but we're still going to have that river flooding. And so we are still anticipating that the low-lying areas that will see some issues as well. And up in the mountains, our snow levels are going to be way above 7,000 feet. So once again, that's where we're expecting the heaviest rain. It has to go somewhere, and it's going to fill our rivers. Where you see the yellow, that's where we're expecting the heaviest rain today. Additionally, we have a wind advisory in place. So it's not just the heavy rain and the flooding. We also have some wind to watch out for, gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Let's talk about timing. Here's this afternoon. You see the bulk of the rain. Look for the oranges, the yellows. That is basically from about Olympia northward, and it just continues over our mountains. So again, all of this rain is going to drain into our rivers. That's why it's really concerning for Skagit and Snohomish, and then even Snoqualmie, as you see. Into Thursday morning, it slowly peels and fades away from north to south. And before then, we are anticipating a couple of more inches of rain. I wanted to show you our Queen Anne camera. You can't see downtown Seattle. Quickly, I'll show you the rain totals through tonight. You see where some of the highest amounts are up in the mountains, but all the way up to the north as well. And then we keep adding up those rain totals as we get closer to Thursday when the rain is eventually going to end, but we're still expecting maybe 1 to 3 inches of rain here in the Seattle area, Puget Sound. Thankfully, we will start to dry things out, but check out those high temperatures, well above normal, about 10 degrees above normal. Unfortunately, it looks like we're not going to have any good snow up in our mountains.